not only have our regular biweekly press conference, but to release our crime plan that we've been discussing over the last couple of months. To us, this is a very, very important thing. It's extremely important that the community and officers know exactly how we're going to address crime in the community. And we want that to be a collaborative process. We also recognize that crime, particularly violent crime, is bigger than the police department. And so we'll talk about some of the ways that we're going to be collaborating with other entities from Metro government in order to change the course of neighborhoods and have some of that sustained change, and how this is part of the larger safety plan that the mayor's office will have, where we'll talk about changing environments and changing neighborhoods, and he's going to be really getting at the root causes and the drivers of poverty and violence in our community, and that'll be part of his larger public safety plan. But I do want to start off by saying thank you to Goodwill for hosting us today. If you are not familiar with the Goodwill Opportunity Center, it's absolutely amazing place. They are a community partner that is driving change in our community. What they're doing to help people change their lives is absolutely amazing, and I would encourage anyone to look into either helping, or if you need assistance in getting a job, education, job training, reach out to Goodwill, and they are a one-stop shop for resources in all of those places. So we'll start off by giving you an update from our officer-involved shooting that occurred last night. We are very fortunate that no one was more seriously injured. The two officers involved are Officer Laxman Archaya, is that how we say it? Laxman Archaya and Brendan Kerner. They're both officers from the 4th Division. They are doing well. Officer Laxman has been released from the hospital last night, and Officer Kerner went through surgery just a couple of hours ago for the injuries that he sustained to his hand. And we hope that he is released from the hospital shortly. Very, very proud of these officers. There's another officer that was out there with them doing proactive work. That's exactly what this community needs, is we need officers that are going to go out there, do the hard work that it takes to keep this community safe, and we're very proud of that type of work and all the other officers that are doing that on a day in and day out, night in and night out basis. So we pray for their speedy recovery and look forward to the prosecution of this suspect. Okay, just a little crime overview on the numbers right now. Our homicides are currently sitting at 136. I will say that the homicide unit made 3 arrests last week and closed out 3 homicide cases. That's great work by that unit. They are tasked with solving some of the most difficult, intense crimes that we have, and they're doing an absolutely great job with it. Our non-fatal shootings are sitting at 336. We just looked into some of their case-solving rates and what they're doing as far as clearing non-fatal shootings, which again is one of the more difficult crimes to clear. They're doing an absolutely amazing job, and our clearance rate has gone up exponentially in the past couple of years since we instituted the non-fatal shooting unit, whereas before we did not have a centralized unit like that was dedicated just to dealing with non-fatal shootings. So once we put those resources in there, that's an opportunity for us to take more violent people off the street. So coming to our strategic plan, like I said, this is an extremely important thing for us. We want every officer to know exactly what's expected of them. I think one of my complaints when I was an officer riding the beat was that we had all of this data and all this information, but how is it getting to those officers, and what are the directions that we're giving officers? And then on the back end, what's the feedback loop so that officers know that the work that they're doing is having an impact? And so this will be a 3-part plan that we'll go over in detail with Deputy Chief McKinley in just a minute. But very excited about it. Look forward to your questions. And at this time, I'll introduce Mayor Craig Greenberg.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you all this afternoon, and it's great to be once again for the 2nd time this week at the Goodwill Opportunity Center. As you heard the Chief say, there's so much great work that's going on every day here at the Goodwill Opportunity Campus, helping individuals improve their lives. And it's also a great reflection of the momentum, positive momentum that we're seeing all across our city. This is just one of many examples. One of many examples here in West Louisville, where just in the past week or two, we opened the first hospital just next door, Norton West Louisville Hospital, the first hospital in over 150 years here in Louisville. Last week, we opened Stellar Snacks, one of the largest economic development projects in West Louisville's history, that opened a great new project there as well, creating new jobs. And we've been celebrating new business openings all across our city. We have positive momentum in our parks and improving our parks, and building new libraries and improving our existing libraries. We're seeing positive momentum with affordable housing and early childhood learning, and so much more. And I'm pleased to be here today with the chief and the team at LMPD, along with Deputy Mayor David James, Deputy Mayor Nicole George, and others from my administration, to talk about the positive momentum that we're seeing in our ongoing work to improve public safety in Louisville. Protecting public safety and health is our #1 priority, and that means a commitment to doing things the right way. It means keeping all of our citizens safe, while also ensuring that we do that with accountability and transparency. Because every resident in every corner of our community deserves to be safe and feel safe in their neighborhood, in their home, in their daily life. And so to do that, we're working with LMPD on both short and long-term strategies that are part of a well-thought-out plan. For example, on the long-term side, we want to prevent crime as much as possible from happening in the first place. And we do that by working with people who are on the wrong path and helping them find better options through programs like GVI, or through many of the programs that Goodwill offers here and at other locations around the city. On the short-term side, Chief just talked about the number of shootings and homicide. Those numbers are still unacceptably high. We know that we have to do more to reduce gun violence. So that's what we're doing. We're taking action. We announced last month that LMPD and my office are working in partnership with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the County Attorney's Office, the Kentucky Attorney General, and the Circuit Court Clerk's Office, and more. These partnerships are designed to identify and arrest the people who make the choice to commit violent crimes. Because the reality is that gun violence in our city, a lot of the gun violence, a high percentage of the gun violence, are caused by a relatively small number of people. And these few people cause a disproportionate amount of harm throughout our community. And so LMPD and our administration is focused on getting these individuals off the streets, and by putting members of violent gangs in jail and out of business. And you'll hear today, a little bit later today, about one of those examples, where thanks to a plan that LMPD had, they were able to execute that plan, and they were successfully able to dismantle one gang in our city that's causing a significant amount of challenges. That is just one example of the proactive police work that LMPD is doing under the leadership of Paul Humphrey, and that we're pleased to talk about today. But it's just one example. It's part of a broader plan that you're going to hear more about in a minute, a bold, smart, new plan for reducing violent crime in Louisville. You're hearing about LMPD's part of that plan today, and you'll continue to hear more from our administration on what we're doing community-wide to continue to make Louisville a safer city, a stronger city, a healthier city. So now here to give you a few more details about that LMPD plan, let me introduce Deputy Chief Emily McKinley.
Thank you, Mayor. We're really excited to be here to release this plan, to talk to you all about this plan. We've kind of alluded to it for a while. And so, a well-defined crime strategy ensures that all stakeholders, whether that be police officers, other members of LMPD, community members, members of other metro agencies, are all aligned in their role and understand their responsibility to reduce crime in our community. And without a plan, efforts can become scattered and unorganized. And so this crime strategy for 2025 outlines to the community and to LMPD officers how LMPD and other metro agencies will make decisions, how we will allocate resources, and how we will collaborate in our efforts to reduce crime and make Louisville a safer and stronger city. We understand the community's concerns when it comes to crime and safety, and how important that is to everyone, no matter where you live in Louisville. And we're committed to addressing crime, especially violent crime, head on. And so the overall goals of this crime plan is to significantly reduce the number of violent crimes, homicides, non-fatal shootings, significantly reduce property crime, especially auto theft. We've seen that go up over the past several years. Significantly improve community trust and engagement. And then overall, establish a foundation for long-term sustainable changes to improve neighborhood conditions that contribute to violence. So our crime plan, you'll see, has three fronts that work simultaneously. These are not steps. These will all happen collaboratively together. The first is data responsive policing. So this is our short-term plan. What's happening right now? Leveraging data and technology to identify crime trends. So conducting crime analysis to identify small locations within Louisville where crime is occurring right now. Deploying resources to those areas, whether that be officers or investigators to those areas. Continuing to assess those areas for evidence of sustainment, or do we need to reallocate resources? And using problem-solving strategies in our divisions to eliminate crime problems. This is focusing on how the department as a whole is working together to find solutions to this problem, and not just the specific divisions. The second part of the plan we call violent offender enforcement. This is continuing our enforcement efforts to concentrate on repeat violent offenders in our city, those who are contributing the most to violent crime. This includes our prohibited firearm possessor program in CID, which Major Rudy here in a little bit will talk about, as well as focusing our efforts to serve violent felony arrest warrants, and continuing our collaboration with the GVI program, the Group Violence Intervention Program within the city of Louisville. The third and long-term strategy we call sustained focus improvement. Using a variety of measures and statistical weighting procedures, we've identified 5 geographic locations in Louisville that we've determined to have the most opportunity for improvement and additional focus for resources to interrupt the observed chronic violent crime patterns and improve the overall feeling of safety to those in that area. To address the underlying conditions that lead to chronic crime and violence in these areas, we will focus on 5 components: the community, the environment, patrol, investigations, and technology. We know that addressing crime requires collaboration, and policing and enforcement and arrests are not the sole solution. We're working with state and federal partners, as well as other metro agencies like Metro Parks and Public Works, the Alcohol and Beverage Control, Codes and Regulations, and the Mayor's Office, and others to find creative solutions to address the root causes of crime in these areas. Now I'll turn it over to Major Alicia Rudy. She's the major over our Criminal Interdiction Division. She's going to give an example of some recent work in our Criminal Interdiction Division, specifically involving the dismantlement of a local violent a violent gang. This is just one example of the violent offender enforcement strategy that I talked about earlier, that in practice and how this coordinated focus on the right individuals causing violence leads to a safer community.
Thank you. I'm Major Alicia Rudy. I'm with LMPD's Criminal Interdiction Division. We often refer to it as CID, so if you hear CID, that's what we're talking about. The first slide, it shows you what our primary focus areas are. And so the first 3 are pretty self-explanatory: gangs, guns, drugs. And the last one is the violent felony apprehensions. We have several squads of detectives who work day in and day out to try to apprehend violent felony offenders, and they work at the direction of our Major Crimes Division, most often homicide, non-fatal shooting squad, and robbery, to help catch these violent offenders. Within those fall the Prohibited Firearms Possessor Program and the Group Violence Intervention Liaison position that Deputy Chief McKinley mentioned. The next slide shows some of the outstanding work that CID has done this year. These are our year-to-date stats for 2024. As you can see, there are a substantial number of illegally possessed firearms that have been seized, thousands of pounds of dangerous drugs that have been taken off the street, and many, many felony arrests. The federal indictment number that's highlighted in red there is at 79, and we are actually expecting to add a few more before the end of 2024. We work very closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office and our federal partners to be able to prosecute those cases that often end with very lengthy sentences for these violent offenders. I'm extremely proud of their work, and I tell them often how much I appreciate the long hours and the patience and hard work that goes into building cases that represent this level of success. So CID focuses, their investigations are most often related to the drivers of violence, which are the gangs, the guns, the drugs that I previously mentioned, and the violent offenders. By intentionally interrupting these specific criminal activities, they're also interrupting the cycle of violence that we all wish would end in our community. So this slide, we're going to take a look at the gang they mentioned that we dismantled. This case was worked between December of 2022 and December of 2023. So this crime plan, while it's new and it's being put in place, these are all strategies that we've been using for a long time. And we're just looking to make them more organized, better communication, and work better together. So this case was led by the CID's Firearms Intelligence Squad and the ATF. Our friends over at ATF were a huge help in this case. And then we also had help from our Major Crimes Division, the rest of our CID squads, and our intel analysts, who we could not go without mentioning. They are a huge help in everything we do. This investigation started following a string of violent incidents that included a handful of homicides. I think there was 5 homicides, 3 non-fatal shootings, and then a handful of drive-by shootings or shootouts where rival gangs feuded with each other, or sometimes even within their own group, and would shoot at each other, but maybe no one got hit, but there was property damage to be investigated. Once the 23 individuals were identified, the investigators and the agents worked meticulously to build good cases and arrest these individuals and make sure they were prosecuted properly. Some of those cases are still ongoing in court. Let's see. A total of 18 of them were arrested, and by dismantled, we mean they were rendered ineffective. So the string of violence that they were committing in our city that we were able to connect using our technological tools, we were able to then realize, okay, this string of violence is being perpetrated by the same group of individuals. So of those 23, 18 of them were arrested. And these are some of the stats that cover that. So the group of 23 was made up of 17 adults and 6 juveniles. So this is our youth. The oldest in the group was 23, and the youngest was 15. And then the average age was 18. There were several guns recovered, as you can see. 12 of those 18 that are being prosecuted are either in custody or on home incarceration or under supervision with probation and parole. Our hope, back when this case was worked, we didn't have as well-structured of a GVI, was just getting started. So now that they are up and running, we are hoping that when these individuals come back into our society and they get released, that they can be on a much safer path than they were on. So we have turned the names of each of these individuals over to our group violence program, and they are going to work to get these young men back into society. And I think the most important stat of all that's up here is this group of 23 gang members. As of October, when we gathered this information, every one of them was still alive. So hopefully they can transition back into society, make better choices, be on a better path, and stay that way. Deputy Chief McKinley?
Thank you, Major Rudy. And again, great work by your unit, your team. Again, just highlighting that every single person that they arrested in this case is alive, and that is our goal, is keeping people alive, keeping people safe. And so if that means that we have to take you to jail or put you in prison to keep you alive, we are going to do that, and we are committed to doing that. And that's exactly what this plan is intended for, keeping people alive. But we can't do this alone, and so we need the community's help. We need your support to report crime, to engage with our crime plan, to engage with your neighbors, with each other, to build relationships with us and each other, so that we can have a safer community. And so we've created a community survey to go along with this crime plan. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you need, how you want officers to interact with your neighborhood, what you're seeing in your neighborhood, and if you have any suggestions of how we might be able to change the crime plan or things we need to add in the crime plan or something might be missing. We want to hear your feedback. And so there's a QR code here that will take you to a community survey that we will use to analyze those results and how we can make this better for all of us. As human beings, we each deserve to feel safe, not just be safe, but feel safe. That's very important for everyone. And so that's what our goal is with this crime plan, making our community feel safe for everybody. Safety is a shared responsibility, and LMPD is fully committed to doing its part, but we need your help too. And community safety requires effort from all of us. Together, we can create a safer city where everyone can thrive. And now we are here with two of our deputy mayors, David James and Nicole George, who have agencies under them that are going to participate in this plan. And so I'll give them the opportunity to come up and give a few words to everyone on this plan.
Thank you. So in order for this to work, it requires us to do, you may have heard the mayor say before, a whole of government approach. And so in order to do that, we have been working with the agencies that report to us, myself, Deputy Mayor George, have been working with those agencies. For example, people should know if a police officer comes to your door, which is something that they do when you call them, but they come without being called, and they say, "What can I do to help you in your neighborhood?" Don't think that that's going to be anything unusual, because that's a part of this plan. And if the police officer hears what they say, they may say something, for example, well, this sidewalk in front of our house has been broken for years and we've reported 1,000 times and no one's done anything about it. Because of the relationships that we have and the understanding that we know that we're working with the police department and Chief Humphrey to make that work, then Chief Humphrey will get that information. He knows to contact Deputy Mayor George and say, this is one of the areas that people in this area really need to have fixed, because not only do we want to make people feel safe, we want people to understand that government cares about them. This is not only about arresting people and putting people in jail, it's about fixing vacant and abandoned properties. It's about making sure that MetroSafe 311 is able to receive information from police officers that they know, that they can talk to those folks and say, hey, there's a problem in this neighborhood. If we had a street light in this alley, I really know that crime would cut down in this alley. Or I know that people would stop breaking into this house. Or they can reach out to Richard Price at Codes and Regulations and to say, we have a problem in this particular neighborhood where people are breaking into these vacant and abandoned properties and bringing in violence and crime into the neighborhood. And the police officers are empowered to report that. Director Price is empowered to fix that. And so it's a whole of government approach to make sure that we in Louisville are taking care of the citizens that are most impacted by crime. And so working together through every agency within Louisville Metro government, whether it's GVI, Office Healthy and Safe Neighborhoods, Public Works, Public Health, we're all working together to help the mayor and to help the police chief and his team do this project. And I think it's going to be an outstanding project, and it's something we've never done before, quite frankly. And I'm very proud of the police department and the team you've assembled to make this work. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much, Chief Humphrey. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me just say what an honor it has been to be able to watch the plan come together and to be able to see how much energy and intention and inclusivity went into the work. The type of community life that makes living in cities great is dependent on safety and order. We all have a role to play in this work, but especially our public health and public service agencies. Deputy Mayor James did an excellent job being able to bring together the collective, which is Metro government. The work of these agencies are a foundation for sustainable change. Things like litter abatement, alley cleanups, traffic calming, and green space, just to name a few, that make a neighborhood safer, but again, also signal that social order and investment. And of course, this doesn't begin to touch on all the other pieces that Deputy Mayor James referenced around the work of course, abandoned properties and alcohol beverage control. With our efforts around sustained focused improvements, we know that this is a long-term process, but we can also see things in the immediate. And it is incredibly empowering to do a cleanup, to report a sidewalk, to focus on some of the infrastructure improvements that again really allow for safe and accessible community public spaces and that really lead to that sustainable change, which will happen over time, but again, can be seen in the immediate. And so the conditions creating crime obviously weren't created by any one entity, and the goals of the strategic plan cannot be solely accomplished with LMPD. And so for that, of course, the agencies of public health and public services, they're ready to stand at the side and work with community and LMPD, and we're excited to be included in the partnership. Thank you.
So again, I want to say thank you to all of our partners within Metro government, and thank you to everyone who's here and participating in this plan. We had a meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, and the way this is going to work is there's going to be a quarterly meeting amongst all the stakeholders in this, where we go through what are the projects that we've had come out of this sustained focused improvement project. And so where are those? What's the status of them? And we now can hold each other accountable to making sure that we get those things done. And that first meeting was actually pretty amazing to put all of those people in the room that we've all kind of worked in our own separate silos to do our jobs apart from each other, when in fact we have much more capability when we work together. And giving these resources and putting these resources in the hands of police officers who, we're not going to fix a street light, we're not going to shut down a business who is constantly causing problems, but we're often the liaison, the first person that makes contact between the community member and their need for help. And so our ability to connect people to resources is fundamental to this. And so to give that tool to officers to be able to solve people's problems on a larger scale is what this is about. So you're going to see us doing proactive police work, which means that we're going to lock people up. That's an enforcement thing, as well as proactively contacting people to understand what their problems are and get them taken care of. So at this time, we'll open it up to questions.
Under the part of the data responsive policing, you guys mentioned that, you're going to conduct crime analysis and identify some locations. Have you all done that so far and have some ideas in mind where you're going to kind of start this?
Yes, so the data responsive being the short-term plan, that is really our week-to-week, month-to-month plan for how our division major is going to be empowered to move those resources around. So this applies to every division. And so the way that works as far as that data, we have a ComStat report that comes out. Those division commanders we're going to ask them about their problems. They're going to have a plan to deal with those problems. And then we're going to follow up to see how they individually dealt with those problems. And the way that we've done that in the past, it really has been very specific to that individual division commander and what they're doing. What we're trying to take now is use that data and say, how is LMPD as a whole going to solve the problems for Major Miller in the 2nd Division that he's facing right now, or Major Vance in the 6th Division that she's dealing with, or Major Tatum in the 8th Division has a problem with car break-ins. What is LMPD doing, not just what are you doing as the division major?
Speaking of those divisions, in the plan, it does say that each division will be tasked with building trust within their area. I spoke to several community members that recall when officers would just swing by for a visit sure that that will change within each division to reach out? I've heard community members that say they reach out to LMPD, but don't get a response.
Yeah, so again, this is about management of resources. So how are we going to make sure that officers have the time to do that community-oriented, proactive, non-enforcement type of policing? And so that is on those division majors to come up with those plans of how they're going to make sure that officers have the time that is allotted to them and give them the direction, right? As opposed to an officer just pulling out of the division lot and it doesn't matter if they turn right or left. We've got to get away from that type of policing, and it needs to be focused on, hey, we have this business over here, we need you to go contact them, make sure that you talk to them. But it's also how we make use of our technology and we make use of some of our other resources. If you take something, for instance, like the deflection program through MetroSafe, the amount of man hours that officers would have spent taking those runs on people in mental health crisis that we don't have to do now frees up officers to be able to do that other type of work that we need them to do. And so it is about making use of those resources and managing the time appropriately, and then just plainly directing officers what we need them to do.
Chief, have you had a chance to speak with your officers who were injured last night and describe what that conversation might have been like, how they're doing?
Yes, I've spoken to both officers that were injured last night. They're in really good spirits. I spoke to the family of one of the officers. They're in good spirits. One of the officers, actually both of them to an extent, were humbled almost. They were at the support that they've gotten from the department. You know, one of the things about tragedies like officers getting shot is that it is a time for us to show how much we care about each other, as opposed to going on our day-to-day and we can just pass by each other without really expressing that. This was a time where officers are able to come together and show how much we really do need to take care of each other, and they were humbled by that.
And we have a clear understanding of how they ended up being injured?
Well, that's a clear understanding on the entire thing. That's what the investigation's for. We do know that no officers fired their weapons, and so all three injuries were caused during that altercation with the suspect, though.
And all three have body-worn cameras that were functioning and operating?
Yes, so body-worn camera. We do have body-worn camera of the event, and we will release that. I think the date that we're going to do it at the next biweekly press conference, I think that with the holiday in between. So at the next biweekly press conference on December 4th, we plan to release that.
There were 2 serial numbers on the gun in possession by the suspect. Does that indicate anything to you, perhaps that it was stolen in addition to the car?
I don't know anything about the serial numbers on the gun at this time. That's all part of that investigation. We'll have to figure all of that stuff out.
Chief Humphrey, a prominent member of the Victory Park Crips, was just sentenced to 30 years in federal prison.
Good for him.
What does the conviction say about LMPD's effort to dismantle gangs and catch drug dealers?
So her statement was that a prominent member of a gang that's caused us problems for my entire career just got 30 years in prison. And what I'll say about that is the community, one, should take that as a sign that we are going after these people. If you're going to continue to cause violence and wreak havoc on a community, we're going to give you a new place to live. And people who are involved in that lifestyle need to understand that we will offer you opportunities to get out of that lifestyle. That is exactly what our group violence intervention program is. It's about reaching these people before they commit the next crime or before they become the next victim, and offering them a way out and resources to turn their life around. But if you don't, it's a carrot and a stick approach, and we're putting you on notice. We have the cooperation of the prosecutors in both the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the Attorney General's Office, and the AUSA's office, and we'll make sure that we get you the longest sentence as possible to make sure that you no longer, plague our community.
One other thing to add in addition to what the chief just said is I think that's important for the community to take notice of that significant sentence for a leader of a gang that has caused significant amount of harm in our community. And our message also is to the judiciary, is to follow that type of lead. There are a few number of individuals that are causing a disproportionate amount of the violence in this community. And LMPD officers can do a great job of identifying the individuals and arresting them. We then need the judicial branch. We then need our judges to take action, to ensure that justice is served, to ensure that it is a deterrent for future violent behavior like these individuals have been committed. So we're appreciative of that sentence. We think when it comes to violent gang members, that that's the approach this community is looking for out of its judicial branch as well. And then one more item, going back to your question about the LMPD being engaged. In addition to everything that Chief Humphrey said, one other thing is Chief Humphrey, Deputy Chief McKinley, the entire team needs more help. We have over 200 vacancies right now on LMPD. We want more people from across our entire community to join up, be a part of the solution. You don't have to have a law enforcement background to be a part of the LMPD team. With more members, we can get more engaged in proactive policing. We can knock on more doors, as Deputy Mayor James said, to get to know neighbors better, to meet more small business owners, to spend more time with faith-based institutions in communities to work on preventing violent crime from happening. There is no better time than to join LMPD right now. With strong leadership, with a strong plan, and strong support for the community, I encourage others to become part of the solution. Put your application in to become part of the LMPD team.
Chief, going back to the crime reduction plan, how does the department hope to address youth violence, youth crime?
Right, so the question is, how do we plan on addressing youth violence and youth violent crime? And I think just in the example that Major Rudy just gave us, there was a significant number of those individuals that are juveniles. And we can't ignore the problem that we have surrounding juvenile violent crime. It is a real problem. It is a problem that we're dealing with. Far too many of our shootings, far too many of our shooting victims are juveniles. So our enforcement strategies, as well as things like group violence intervention, and I think we have Director Bogan here with us, a large percentage of who they deal with are juveniles. So they're trying to get to those juveniles before they become the next suspect or victim. And he'll be able to speak a little bit more on it if you want to come up and join us.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Bogan, Director of Group Violence Intervention. So we currently are working with LMPD and other law enforcement parties to identify groups who are actively doing the shooting. And there is a particular ecosystem in doing that. Once we identify who they are, what I mean is who are actively shooting, who are the shooters and who are the shot callers. And we coordinate together to deliver services that is directed at helping them to desist out. Look at us as an off-ramp. And part of that is a three-part message. Community has a responsibility to be that moral voice to speak out against these shootings. Inside the community, we also have what we call credible messengers. These are individuals who used to be in the gang, they used to be in the lifestyle, but they found their way out. Usually they find their way out through some sort of consequence, a personal decision, and help. We provide that. The second part is our outreach, and we coordinate with Goodwill as a major partner, Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, another partner. Their responsibility is to help desist people out of their lifestyle. What does that look like? It comes in a number of ways, from job placement, secondary chance, or second employer, mental health, vocational skills, whatever you need to come out the lifestyle, we will help you do that. Third part, as you heard it from Chief Humphrey, consequences. Legal consequences. That is going to be the driver to help reducing violent crime in the city. I'm encouraged. The collaboration that we're seeing is none like I've ever seen before. So that is a three-part ecosystem of group violence intervention.
Mr. Bogan, can I ask you one question? I'm not going to ask you specifically about last night, but just to discover that this is a 19-year-old who squeezed the trigger in the matter of a second, has changed his entire life. Can you just talk about that moment in somebody's life where they're making that decision and, I don't know, how serious it becomes also quickly?
Well, I can't speak to that particular moment, but typically, how does a young man arrive to that point of pulling the trigger? Historical, there's generational factors that are there. There's a number of reasons why this individual leading to pull on the trigger. And we look to address that. So a lot of our wraparound services wrap around families, because we're finding that typically there's a parent who was in that lifestyle. There was an uncle who was in that lifestyle. So we coordinate wraparound services to address all those needs. That's a great question. Group violence intervention is about 4 years old. It's a evidence-based approach to reducing shootings among groups and gangs. It was brought here in 2020 through, at the time, U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman brought it here. And at that point, there was an infrastructure that was built. And they did 2 audits. The first audit was a group audit, and they found about 14 active groups in the city of Louisville, active participation about 500 or so. The second audit was they looked at shootings, and they found that an overwhelming majority of shootings were group involved. Those 2 audits brought GVI here. If you look at other cities such as Boston, Chicago, not Chicago, but South Bend, the program is working. But they got about, I would say, a 15 to 20 year head start on us.
Piggyback on that. So specifically about the collaboration with GVI, one of the things is that when the Attorney General reached out to us about improving this program, the mayor and I took it very seriously, and so we're actually involved in going to those GVI meetings now, which has never happened before. And so you have stakeholders from every level of government helping with GVI now. We've changed the way that we structure it internally. But when we're talking about the strategic plan as a whole and how it came together as far as all of Metro government being involved, the thing is that everyone knows that public safety has to be a priority. It doesn't matter what you do in life, where you live, everyone deserves to be safe. And the agencies within Metro government touch every part of everyone's life. And so this was an opportunity, I think, as soon as we mentioned it, everyone jumped on it right away because they saw it as being empowering. People want to do a good job, right? And so the opportunity to collaborate with others to get that job done and make your work easier and be more effective with it, it did not take a lot of heavy lifting to convince everyone else to get on board with what we were working on. We also recognize that LMPD is not the only entity that's going to influence crime. There is a direct correlation between the number of people that we stop and arrest and violent crime. You can look at it over the years that when we arrest more people, violent crime goes down. It's the same for writing tickets. When we write more speeding tickets and we write more tickets for reckless driving, fatal accidents go down. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but that's how we keep people safe. But that's not the entire story. So how do we collaborate with these others? And everybody just, it's actually pretty neat. Like, I didn't think that people would jump on board, but I mean, the work that Deputy Chief McKinley did to really, she's the 95% author of this plan. Assistant Chief Corey Robinson, he's over Administrative Bureau. He is coordinating all of it, so he is the one that is going to be driving these meetings, all these check-ins to say what are the tasks that need to be done, where do they stand, and so he really was integral in getting everybody together and in the same room.
These 5 focus areas that you guys have determined, what are those factors that were in play? Because they're all across the city. They're not very different, makeups, economic as well as demographically. What factors went in consideration in picking those areas?
So the factors that went in consideration for the 5 sustained focus improvement areas, it has to do with, it's math really, but it has to do with violent crime, particularly over time. And so when we look at those areas, we see opportunities for improvement. We also see the impact that historically these neighborhoods have often been left out when it comes to having resources dedicated to them. When we look at an area like downtown, you look at the Central Business District, downtown is everybody's neighborhood. We have to invest resources into making sure that everyone feels safe downtown in that Central Business District, right? And so how we allocate those resources and stuff, those areas might change over time, and hopefully they actually do, right? Because that means that we're having an impact on those crime numbers in those areas.
Chief Humphrey, I know that the consent decree negotiations are still underway, but you have a seat at that table. I guess, what have you learned from those conversations from the DOJ report that is directly reflected of this plan moving forward under you?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's directly reflected in this crime plan. So here's the thing is that we have to have a vision for where this department goes. And I've said it before, but I think part of the problem with where we're at is we're the product of being responsive to problems as opposed to having a plan for where we want to be and then managing the issues as they come up in order to get where we want to be. And so that's what this is about. This will be part, like I said, part of a larger public safety plan for the mayor's office, but this is only one part of a strategic plan for LMPD. So we're going to do this in different areas so that as we grow this department, as we change this department, we stay focused on where we want to end up, and we have our values and our principles, and we manage the department and the issues in accordance with where we want to get, as opposed to it just being by chance and reactionary. Yes, ma'am.
There's been concerns over the past few years about self-initiated policing. How does last night affect officers' willingness to take on traffic stops and things like that?
I mean, I think it's pretty amazing if you really think about it conceptually, that you have people that are willing to go out and look for bad people who have the capability of hurting them. Like, you know, we all say that we signed up for this job to serve others or protect and serve or whatever. Well, the way that we serve others is by finding bad people who want to prey on the community, and we get them before they can get the community. And so that's a pretty amazing thing that people are willing to do that on a night in, night out basis, particularly in this community where we've had so many issues in the last 4 or 5 years surrounding this profession. And so I'm really encouraged that officers are going out and doing that work. And I would expect that they're going to do more of it, because that's what we need. That's what they signed up to do. And they swore an oath to protect people, and it's absolutely awesome that they're going out there and doing this stuff.
On a personal level, what goes through their head as they're walking up to a traffic stop, to a car like that, where they don't know what could happen?
Well, I mean, that's training right there, right? So what's going through an officer's head, who knows at a particular time? I can tell you a lot of stuff that's crazy that's gone through my head at different points. But here's the thing, is like, this job is fun, you know, and I don't want officers to be ashamed of what they do. You know, we've been discouraged as a profession for the last several years about what we do and how we do it. Here's the thing, as an emergency room doctor, when the light goes off because there's a bad accident, they get excited too, because they get the opportunity to put all of their years of training and hard work into saving somebody's life and protecting somebody. They're not excited that somebody gets hurt. We're not excited when there's a shooting because somebody got hurt. We're excited because we put all this time and effort and focus and energy into developing a skill set that we get to put into place to keep people safe. So it's an exciting job. We get to play adult hide and seek. Like, you had to stop at some point. You played your last game of hide and seek. There's officers who are going to go out right now and play hide and seek with somebody who's really dangerous to get them off the street, and that's pretty exciting.
And then just with what happened last night, how do you, I guess, continue to convey the message to get people to join the force to go through that training and take on that risk?
Look, we're not gonna hide that this is a risky job. I think everyone knows that there's risks that come along with this job, and that's what the training's for. That's what the equipment's for. But that's also what the sense of service and the passion that you have for keeping people safe goes towards. And I think sometimes we need to change the paradigm around how we talk about this profession. And I think people think that officers go out here and they want to, they want to lock everybody up. And look, the goal is to keep people safe. That's just the mechanism that we have. There's a million tools and there's a million different service industries, but we're a unique one that gets to do what we do. And so people who are driven to do those types of jobs, we welcome them. All I need is good character and work ethic, and we can give you all the skills to do this job and do it well. The other thing that I'll say, just kind of in closing, is you don't have to carry a badge and a gun to help with this. If you go to lmpdjobs.com, all of our professional staff jobs are on there as well. Major Rudy spoke about our real-time crime center and our analyst. We can't do this job without our professional staff support. And they're absolutely amazingly skilled people in those positions that make us better at our job and keep this community safe. So, thank you.
That's it, guys. That's it.
Yes, so we have Minerva Varola here, who is our equity and diversity coordinator, and she's been taking care of making sure that we get that translated. And is that up yet? Is it? Okay, so the Spanish version will be posted along with the English version, and it'll be available for everyone. So, thank you.
That's it, everybody.